It's Which Word of the Day? Today's word is Fae, noun. Fae, aka fairies, are mythical beings of folklore and romance. Fae are generally described as human in appearance and having magical powers. Much of the folklore about Fae revolve around protection from their malice. In particular, folklore describe how to prevent the fairies from stealing babies and substituting changelings. Fae are often seen as helpers of several things as well. As the seasons change, Fae help wake plants and trees, animals and insects from slumber. There are many different fairy races throughout Europe, mostly occurring in Germanic and Celtic mythology and folklore, including dwarf, elf, gnome, goblin, leprechaun, sprite, troll, and pixie.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Welcome back, Spellworders, to another episode of Words of the Witches. Wow, we are nearly 3/4 of the way done with the book, so we're getting there, and it's happening, and it's a lot of fun. I wanted to announce that I did activate listener support again on the podcast, so you can donate money to the podcast just to keep things happening, keep the spirit alive here. But I am thinking about doing an exclusive giveaway for people who donate, and of course I'll send you stuff. So if you do decide to support the podcast and do 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month, I will definitely send you some merch. Speaking of merch, good segue there. I have launched a threadless shop. It's wordsofthewitches.threadless.com, and you can go ahead right now and select designs for the podcast and put it on shirts or mugs or buttons or stickers or, all of those things. So I'm excited. I'm working on one more design for the shop, but you can go there now, wordsofthewitches.threadless.com, and see if any of them speak to you. I have a really cool one for Rhyme Time with the Book of Shadows. I have one of me as a naked little witch for Word of the Day, and then I have the pod promotional pictures, so be sure to check that out. I also wanted to read a new review that I got recently. It's from JKNU79, 5 stars. I don't know who this person is, but thank you. It says, Charmed is awesome. I have the entire set of the books, but haven't had time to read them all, but have read most of them. This podcast makes it easier to go through the ones I haven't read. Love the podcast. I appreciate this so much. Thank you. And yes, continue to leave those reviews. It really does help people find us. So this week, this book is Changeling Places, and I have Ben as my guest. One thing he told me after we recorded that I wanted to mention now is that he used to recite the birthday spell from Inherent the Witch, the one that they used to try to get Lily's powers. And he would do that every day for his birthday, and I thought that was super cute. So, and since he told me that off recording time, I needed to tell you. All right, well, let's get on with the actual episode and give it a roll. This is Words of the Witches, episode 30. It's our 29th officially numbered book. Although, it's funny because these books don't have numbers on them actually, but they're given a number, but it's only because we know. Oh, this is Ben, and welcome to the show. This is my guest. Hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
So you are a longtime fan of the podcast. You were actually the first person that reached out. So other people that I kind of knew because they were friends of mine or they were acquaintances of mine before, but you were somebody entirely new that just discovered the podcast, and you were so supportive, and it was really nice.
Yeah. Actually, a fun fact, the date which this episode is supposed to come out is actually the 1-year anniversary of me finding out this podcast, because last year I had like a really weird month where I didn't want to read anything else except like the Charmed books that I have hoarded over the years but haven't gotten to read yet. So in that month I read, I think, 8 or 9 Charmed books. And then I looked into, I think, Instagram. It was Instagram. I was looking at some other people who were posting about the books, and then I came across your podcast, and I really liked it because it started with like, I think at that time it was episode 3,
Okay,
and I
yeah,
was
real
I was
fresh.
already in book 20, I think. So I don't know. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that was really fun to discover someone else also going through the books as I was also going back to it.
you're into the books. I'm starting to get back into the books, and I love that. So, but now, we kind of caught up with you. Can you stop for a while, and now the podcast is caught up, and now we're reading together.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
what's happening?
I
Okay,
actually
that's
stopped at Mystic Knoll. I think the episode came out today, but I haven't started the book yet. I will read
okay.
it maybe tomorrow, and then I'm gonna catch up
Yeah,
with the episode of the podcast.
I recorded Mystic Knoll Wednesday this week. Went up today, Friday, and now we're recording this one right away. So it's crazy. And this episode, listeners, if you're listening to this episode, it's like the future now. So it's like 2 weeks later. It's like
Yeah.
March 25th or something. It's fine. But but yeah, so it's cool. It's just getting it all in there. I'm getting ahead of the game. So and you're from the Philippines, so quite
Yes.
a distance. It's like midnight for you, right?
It is. Yeah, it's 12 midnight for me.
You read the book. You started with the books. How did you get into the Charmed in general? Like, what was your journey like?
Hmm. I think I discovered Charmed in one of like the summer vacations we had in, because here the summer vacations is May and April, and we used to go to the province in my grandparents' house. And I think I was just flipping through channels, and then I saw, I think one of the episodes was from the season 3 or 4.
Mm.
Um, it was the ice cream, I think, the ice cream
You're
truck
asking for ice
episode.
cream? Yeah, season 3, episode 10.
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly which one I saw first because the timing here of the episodes, I think it comes out months after it premieres in the US.
Mm, okay.
So, and also it not the episodes do not come out always like in sync with the timeline. So sometimes I get to the episode 24, and then the next day it would be uh, episode 10, so something like that. So, and then I always get to the season 2 or 3 episodes whenever I like flip channels. So it's, I think I have already seen the ice cream truck episode at least 5 times in my lifetime. And then also I listed down some of the episodes. The Painted World, and then Morality Bites. I think those
Okay.
are the most random episodes that I will probably see like in reruns on cable TV.
Huh. I wonder. That's interesting because I think they go in order, but don't you just keep landing on that? Maybe those are just very self-contained episodes. Like
I think
I
so.
can show
Yeah.
this a lot, and it won't really. It's just a random. It's kind of like in Avatar. They always show the Great Divide because it's just a little pocket that's really easy to put
Yes.
anywhere. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and with the books, I think I was same as you for the first. I think on the books with Prue still in it, I was getting the books as they were being released.
Okay.
So, and then I think I stopped a little after maybe 3 or 4 when Page was there because it wasn't as widely distributed in my country as it is in the US. So I think I missed
Sure.
out on the last 10 or last 15 books. But I was able to get them back when I came across a collector who was letting go of the books. So right now I have all the novels except Phoebe Who, because that one I
Okay.
think it's like harder to find here in my country.
Okay. I don't know that struggle. It's really because I know like some of the books, especially like those Phoebe Who and like Leo Rising, are really hard to come by.
Yeah.
But I had them all pre-ordered, so when they were brand new, I had them because that's just what I did. And there was a point because I think I narrowed it down to like I read like the first beginning of season 8 books. So I think there's only like 4 or 5 books I haven't read. I thought there was more,
Mhm.
but I think it's only like 4 or 5. But I was still buying them because I'm like, I'm gonna read these later. I gotta get them, and so. But it's gonna be cool when I get to because a lot of these I'm remembering after I read them. I'm like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
I do remember this. All right, so this is Changeling Places. And it's got another season 6 promo picture. Paige is kind of in the front on this one, looking very sultry. She's giving you the side eye, you know.
Yeah.
And then we have Phoebe and Piper on the side, and there's kind of a very boring background. It's just purple
Yeah.
with clouds.
Very understated,
uh,
and it doesn't have any connection to the story at all.
no. Some of these covers are really ingenious, and they do a lot of cool stuff. This is just kind of like, what's the most generic background we can think of?
Yeah.
But bunch of clouds in the purple sky, and has the tagline "Changing babies just got a whole new meaning." Is that a normal phrase? Is changing babies a normal phrase? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Changing babies just got a whole new meaning. What's the original meaning? I don't know what that means. So,
Oh, maybe changing diapers, I think. Should have been,
oh,
right?
there we go.
Just
You
now that
got
I'm
it. See,
thinking about it, it makes
changing
sense.
babies, changing diapers. See, there's that noggin. See, I did not catch that. There you go. I appreciate that. Changing babies, you change a diaper. See, okay, it all comes together. The back of the book says, "Rockabye baby, in the elf lair, shapeshifters took you, pretending to care. If someone can save you, the charmed ones can. Rockabye baby, don't leave again." That's gonna be the new nursery rhyme you tell to your children.
Oh no.
Anyway, Piper is trying to be her usual super witch self and do it all. Run P3, take care of her newborn son Wyatt, and of course, save innocents. Her first week back at work is hard, leaving Wyatt at his daycare center, making Piper feel like she's abandoning her son. At least Paige has taken a temp job there, and Wyatt seems perfectly content and safe. But is he? Piper notices that Wyatt is acting strange, not eating or sleeping according to his normal schedule. Phoebe thinks the baby is just going through a stage, but Piper is not convinced. Several of the center's other charges have been exhibiting the same behavior, and some parents are pulling their children from the daycare center. After one toddler asks Paige, "Did they take them because they're the wrong babies?" The sisters discover that someone's swapping babies all over San Francisco. The charmed ones spring into action because not only is Wyatt the most magical being on the planet, but he's also a Hallowell, and nobody messes with the Hallowells. Yeah, this is actually the thinnest book in the entire Charmed novel
Yeah.
series. And it's funny when you don't really notice it when you put it next to the other Charmed books and you see the spine and how like it's tiny it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a short book. It was published March 22nd, 2005, and reprinted April 4th, 2005. And its author is Nicole Ostow.
I think, yeah.
I'm not sure. It's supposed to take place in season 5 between Necromancy in the Stone and Oh My Goddess. So right between episode 21 and 22, and the finale. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, okay. So the prologue, it's like the foggy woods. The elves are like in there. It's like their little elf village, and they're aware of a looming danger. They're like, putting the protective barriers up, and then we see this elf nanny named Caitlin Poppins. What a name, Caitlin Poppins. Okay. And she's looking over her elf baby charges. So she's this elf nanny, looking over little elf babies, taking care of them. Suddenly, a woman named Maya. She's in a cat suit. She's got long black hair.
Uh-huh.
She's got like sharp little nails, and she infiltrated the nursery. She's like a little cat burglar. Think like Catwoman or like Black Cat from Spider-Man. She's like, "Ooh, yes, I'm gonna come to steal the babies." So Maya tells Caitlin that she is a bounty hunter come to collect the babies, and Caitlin pleads for an alternative. She's like, "No, these are our babies." So she's like, "You know what? I can get you human babies instead. They're better. They're more powerful than elves and taller, and they can learn magic and stuff. Take those instead." And then Maya's like, well, magically imbued humans could be a better asset to my client. So she's like, "I'll accept your offer if you can show me what you get first, and I'll approve them. If I like them, I'll take them. And if I don't, then I'm taking your babies. So I'll see you in 3 days." And then she leaves, and so Caitlin's like, "Well, better go find some human babies."
So weird.
There you go.
So this is interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting to me because the villain explanations in these books usually it doesn't happen like before
right
everything else.
away.
Yeah. So
Yeah, this is an interesting book because a lot of times you're reading the books and you have to like discover what the mo is, what their
motives.
motives are,
Yeah.
and this one tells you point blank what it is. So the audience knows before the rest of the people do. So we're just kind of like waiting to see how it plays out versus
Yeah.
discovering as it happens. So
Also, I think they established early on that the elves were not really evil, but they were like backed into a corner because of the problem.
correct, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's prologue, and then so for chapter one, so we are finally introduced to the sisters. So Piper, Phoebe, and Paige are in the kitchen for breakfast, similar to what is mostly seen in the show. And then Piper is
Mm-hmm.
going to be back to work after her maternity leave. So Wyatt is already here. Um, and she wonders if it's too soon. So she goes back and forth if she's fit to go back to work already or if she needs to like, stay more with Wyatt. Phoebe wants to scope up the advice column is at a competitor paper. So she is still in the Bay Mirror in this
Yes.
timeline. And
So
then
yeah, she wants to go
Paige,
see what the other newspapers are doing.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And then Paige is still in her temp job era.
Yes.
So she is in a daycare, and then she is also trying to practice her baby caring skills. I think in
Yeah, she's
the
like, Wyatt's
daycare.
born, so I should probably learn some of this at the daycare. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then Leo comes in, and they all agree that Paige will take Wyatt to her with her to the daycare, which is weird to me because he is like a very powerful magical baby, and you didn't even discuss it like with everyone else. You just agreed that the best thing is to put him out of the house
Right.
with all the other normal people.
Yeah, Piper has to work. Leo has charges he has to take care of. We can't always be here with Wyatt, so and Paige, you're already going to the daycare. You can like watch him, and if
Yeah,
he doesn't any magical, that's your problem.
yeah.
like,
It's like they're not dealing with demons like every day. They're just very nonchalantly sending Wyatt to the daycare
like on the show that he did end up going to like a preschool or something like that, but that was
later. Yeah,
in the beginning. He was super not in control. Like by then, when he was older, you can give him instructions he can understand. But baby Wyatt would just be like, This is
yeah.
me. This is what I do. Accept it."
And then he's just orbing all around the house, putting up shields.
hmm
They're not worried
Yeah.
about being exposed at all in this book.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Phoebe reads a letter. So I think her column for this issue would be about like parenting and motherhood because she is starting to receive a lot of motherhood, a lot of
hmm
letters from.
New mothers.
Mhm. And then so Piper is back at P3 managing the bills, and he was very rude to a delivery guy. And then also Paige comes by after a successful day with Wyatt at the daycare. And then Paige like breaks some of the
Oh
champagne
yeah, she
glasses.
and she orbs in and she like breaks something. You hear this loud crash. Like, what was that? Like, sorry, I missed. Like, what was that about? I don't understand.
It's so weird that she didn't help Piper like put the boxes inside because usually in the show if there's something that she can do with her powers, especially at this point when she's still very excited and very new to the magic, she like uses every chance that she gets to orb things like out of the way.
yeah.
So that's what's weird in this
hmm
chapter.
So chapter 2, Paige is at work at the daycare center. A new day at the daycare. There's one child named Jonathan who do not want to play house with this other girl. So this group of kids are playing house, and this girl Natalie, she's like, "Hey, we should have a pet fairy, live with us." And this boy Jonathan's like, "Ew, fairies are for girls, and fairies aren't even real, so I don't want to play house with you." And so he's getting all mad at her, and Paige is like, "Boy, have an imagination, chillax a little bit. He's like, no. And so he leaves, and, well, he doesn't leave, but he, like, gets out of their little circle. And then Paige goes to encourage Natalie's imagination. She's like, you believe in fairies. If you like fairies, you do that. Why don't you just draw me a picture of your fairy? Embrace it, love it. And Natalie's like, okay, that sounds fun. And I just immediately thought of, when they had their little pictures, and they had Thistle, and Lily was
Oh
their
yeah,
little pictures, and yeah.
it's a nice callback. Yeah.
And then at P3, Piper is angry that her employee failed to book a band for the night. Yeah, she's like, we have no band. You have no other, like, indie person that come through. There's no DJ. How can I do this with you screw-ups? Fine. Piper begins to feel that she can't do it all. She's like, maybe I can't be a mom and work full-time like I thought. This is just a mess. Everywhere I go is a disaster. So she's like, ugh. Phoebe is at work getting numerous letters from new moms. Like, they just keep coming in, more of them. And she is, like, at a loss for how to respond. She's like, I'm not a mom. I'm just an aunt. So I don't have the full experience. A lot of these things I don't have any, experience with. I don't know these issues. And then she asks Elise, she's like, what would you do? And Elise is no help. She's like, I don't have the answers. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I really love that this chapter was like POV of like each of the sisters, like separately, and also it's
Yeah.
like the show where Phoebe and Elise has some interaction, but Elise is no help at all. Like most of the time in the show, also. Because I haven't seen the show for a while, I have all the DVDs, but I don't have like the player, and we don't have any streaming like options here in my country. So I haven't seen the show in a while. Reading the books is like me going back to what I loved
Nice.
watching like weekly back in the day. So it's really nice to
Kind of fills that sharp void
some
for
of
you.
to see some of the similarities between the books and the show. Like some
Nice.
snippets of scenes that are similar to the show.
Nice.
So chapter 3.
Yes.
Okay, so Piper tells Leo she decided to take more time off and be a full-time mom a little longer. So this sounds a lot like the Piper in the show, the Piper that we all know from the show. Leo is supportive but is concerned that she is compromising too much. So sounds like Leo again. Spending the day with Wyatt, Piper began to feel that he was not acting like his usual self. So he is irritable and he cries a lot, and that nothing that they usually do appeases him. So Piper is starting to feel like it's her fault that um, Wyatt is acting up.
Yeah.
And then Paige and Phoebe come home, and Piper tells them Wyatt has been crying all day, uncharacteristically, and she is she is exhausted. Leo orbs and somehow shatters a plate. So this is another weird thing because this never happened. I don't think it ever happened in the show.
Why is the author obsessed with people orbing into things?
Right, right.
This is the second time. Paige is pretty adept at this point with her orbing. Like, Leo definitely should know how to orb. So why are you smashing things? I don't get it. But okay.
So in this chapter, they were like discussing why Wyatt was acting like weird, why Wyatt was acting differently, and the thing that I couldn't like get past through is like Phoebe being the cynic, or maybe I haven't seen the show because now it's Paige's turn to be like the more open to magic. And then Piper is like the eldest now, so she tries to be on the top of everything. So whether it's magic, whether it's non-magic, but it's weird that Phoebe is the one that is very cynic at this point because I remember Phoebe to be very open to magic. I mean, she started the whole thing. She discovered that they were witches. So
I don't. It doesn't seem like her. You're right. And there was moments she went through phases of it, but not like this. I think it wouldn't be this extreme. Oh yeah. So Wyatt wakes up and wails after Leo orbed him with and shatters the plate. He woke up. She's like, we just got him down. He was sleeping. Why did you wake him up? So then, chapter 4, back at the daycare. So Paige is having a lot of days at this daycare. I wonder if she's working for like a week. Paige and her coworker Dory discuss how another coworker who was there, yesterday, her name was Katie. She left a note and said that she's never coming back to work again. She's like, peace out, bitches. And
Rage quit. I'm out.
And they're like, she was so good at her job. Why did she quit? What's her problem? I don't know. And then, so Paige noticed that Simon, which is a regular infant baby there, that he wasn't around. Like, he was here every day. Why is he not here? And then Dory tells Paige that his mom called, and she was all upset that Simon was acting out. He was not acting like his usual self, and she's blaming the daycare for it. And Paige is like, funny, that's what Piper said about Wyatt. Huh. So Paige is like, okay, we'll deal with the older kids then. So Paige is dealing with the other children. She names this one guy Kid of the Day. She's like, you get the special treatment. Here's your prize. Here's your hat. Whatever. As she's doing that, she eavesdrops on Dory, which is like the boss, the daycare boss. And she's getting another call of a disgruntled parent taking her child out of daycare. So here's another one. That night, Paige tells her sisters and Leo that she thinks the coincidence of baby personality transplants is strange. She's like, why is this happening more than usual? Why is everybody having these same issues? I think something must be afoot. Phoebe is convinced it's nothing. Like, here she goes. Phoebe's like, no, that's just babies. They're fickle. They don't know who they are yet. I'm like, come on, Phoebe. You're better than that. But Leo thinks it's worth looking into if instinct is telling them to be concerned. Paige's instincts are on alert. You know, Piper thinks it's, you know, she knows why it's acting like, and she's like, yeah, I kind of want to see this through. And Leo's like, okay, yeah, check it out.
In my notes, I put Leo is very annoying here because he just like started asking questions, but he offers no help, and then he just leaves.
He's annoying this whole book, really. I mean, Leo in this book, yeah.
It reminded me of when the sisters were dealing with something that they don't know yet, and then they were like throwing all the ideas at each other.
Brainstorming,
So I really loved it in this chapter.
Nice.
Okay, so in chapter 5, we are introduced to the internet. So the internet is in, because I remember in the previous chapter, Phoebe went to like the library to research using like books, and that's so weird to me. I had to check what year this book came out because I don't think I remember like researching using books. Because I'm so used to just googling all of everything. So in this chapter, chapter 5, Paige finally uses Google. So she googles their names just to check. Because her theory is if Katie, her theory was Katie should have had like one hit, so she can check on her background.
Yeah.
So she tries to track her down at a coffee shop, but there's no record of her anywhere. And then Paige meets the surfer dude, Drew Byers, and he invites her to his shop so he can show her the ropes on surfing. She declines. So this is just, I think, a filler thing. Like, introduce
it's such a filler thing.
Yeah.
It's such a filler thing. Why is this in here? I don't get it. There's no relativity to the story. It's mentioned one time again at the end, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. So in my notes, I put here, they mentioned Glenn. So I have to check if because sometimes they mention names here, but when you check on the show, it's not the correct timeline. But they mentioned Glenn. And then I'm also frustrated because this is already half of the book, but they haven't done like big magic. There's just orbing. There's still no magic, no scrying, no potions, no anything. So it's already half of the book. I want some magic.
Yeah. Chapter 5 was like a throwaway chapter. Chapter 6, Paige goes back to start another day at the daycare. She is perturbed and trying to piece this mystery all together. So she's like, I know something's wrong. Why won't anybody help me?
Very Nancy Drew.
Yes. When Paige arrives, only 2 babies out of the infant ward are left. There's only 2 babies out of however many they had. So 8 more parents took their kids out of the daycare, making the same claims that their child isn't right. Natalie, the older girl, comes to Paige and she asks where all the babies were. She's like, where did all the babies go? And she tells Paige she wonders if they were the wrong babies. And Paige's like, why would you say that? Wrong babies? What? What gave you that idea? So Natalie continues that she saw Katie go into the infant room earlier in the week, and she turned into a tiny magic person with pointy ears. And then the babies went all fuzzy, and then the babies were different. So she's like, yeah, the babies like shimmered or whatever, not shimmered, but they got like woo, and and then Katie even called Simon a different name. She called him like, what was that? Caleb. Okay, Caleb. He's like, that's Simon, but not Simon. Oh. So Paige is like, oh my God! Oh! So she tells Dory, she's like, no, I gotta leave. I gotta go home. Family emergency. She's like, you just got here and I'm short-staffed already. She's like, I don't care. I need to go. And so...
The family emergency excuse again.
Yes. Paige rushes home, leaving Dory by herself to deal with... I mean, I guess there's not as many kids there, so I suppose maybe she can handle it.
Yeah.
But on the road, Paige calls a stressed Phoebe. So she's like, Phoebe, I got something to tell you. Wyatt may not actually be Wyatt. He's not himself. He's actually not him. And then everyone arrives at the manor, and Paige tells them what she just found out. So Phoebe is like, you know what? I do remember something about changelings in the book. She's like, that sounds familiar, about babies being changed and stuff like that. Let's go look up and see what it says. So then they all go investigate, and the Book of Shadows says, changelings. Mischievous elves have been known to exchange their own babies for those of other species for the sole purpose of creating harmless havoc. And then Piper's like, harmless havoc? They think this is harmless? Okay. If this is not my kid, that's big. Why would they do this? They find a spell to reveal a baby's true face and perform it on Wyatt, and then Wyatt is revealed to be an elf baby. He gets teeth pointy teeth are revealed, pointy ears are revealed. He's got little bug eyes, so like, oh, this is an elf baby.
And at least in chapter 6 we already get like a spell, and it's a full on like quatrain spell, because usually in the books sometimes they just say they perform the spell, but they don't write down the spell. So this is nice. Chapter 7. So the sisters are appalled, of course, that Wyatt has been out of their house for how many days now? I think it's already been a week. But Leo is uncharacteristically dismissive. So I don't know what happened.
Leo pisses me off so much in this book.
Yeah, he says the elves are generally good, peaceful creatures. He believes Wyatt is powerful enough to protect himself for a while. He also seems to side with the elders, which is so not Leo, not our Leo.
He would side with the elders a lot. He would defend them a lot, but he also would not stand for somebody taking his kid. If his children are involved, if his family is involved, he will not. He will always go for his family. So this is wrong.
Yeah. So they scry and track the elves down to the woods behind the Golden Gate Park, and they use the same spell to reveal the elf village. And then Leo, pieces out to hang with the elders because apparently he's not needed. I don't know.
He's like, you don't need me, right? Leo,
so
what the hell? What the hell? This is your kid. You find out your kid has been taken by elves and he's not with you, and you're just like, go get him back. I'm not gonna have any part of this.
Right? And also, I think she just leaves the girls to like fix everything. So I don't know what's up with him.
Yeah.
So anyway, the sisters are to the woods with the elf baby and perform the reveal spell. And they are met by a cadre of elf men who take them to their king, Rowan. So Rowan takes them to the nursery and informs them of like the whole plot, like the whole reason why they exchanged elf babies with a human baby. And then so they reunited with Wyatt, and Caitlin admits everything and tells them of the threat. She takes out some of the elf dust. So apparently the fuzzy thing that Natalie mentioned before was like an elf dust. Similar to the
elf
fairy
dust that magically switches.
Yeah. Similar to the fairy dust in the shop.
Yeah.
And then she switches back the babies. Conveniently, it just changes back everything that she did. It just reverses everything the kidnapping. And then returning home. Oh no, the elves prepare for war because the sisters are like, they're angry, but they're also dismissive of the threat to the elves, so they just
Yeah,
leave them to their own devices. And then when they return home, Leo has the nerve to make them feel guilty for not sticking around. Um, and then they decide to go back with the spell. So at least when they get back, they discussed it and they were all like, I was feeling
it's
bad about
just
it. It's too late
yeah.
now.
It's so funny though because they leave. They're like, "Yeah, this bounty hunter's after us, and we don't know why she wants her babies." And they're like, "Oh, okay. At least we got our baby back. Bye, peace out. Like, have a wonderful time with that. Good luck with all that. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be just fine." But then they get back. They're like, "Oh yeah, I did feel kind of shitty about doing that." Like,
Yeah, and then they
okay,
had to like have several pages of just talking about it before they get back. And then when they get back, with the spell and the potion, they find that Maya, the bounty hunter, is back. And then Caitlin was like trapped in a force field. So the charmed ones fight her. So it's not a very action-packed fight. It was just,
it's pretty quick. A
yeah.
freeze and
So of course they asked her who hired her, and then she doesn't answer. But Piper was like pissed, so she just blew her up.
you're gonna tell me who it is. I'm gonna count to three. One, two, three. Oh no! Enter. Boom. So that was it. Okay.
That's that. Goodbye.
You
So
failed the test.
so with Maya blasted off, the elves are grateful, and the charmed ones agreed to do some digging and report back. So I don't know. Everything just seems like a little too late for the charmed ones to act.
So they all agree, like, okay, yeah, we're gonna find out who this guy's after you, and we'll come back and help you out and get make sure he doesn't take your babies.
Yeah,
The next chapter, they seem to forget all about that promise, and they go about their day.
it's back to normal again.
Yeah, where it's like, oh yeah, those elf thing. Oh yeah, that's right. We told them we'd help them. That oh well. Um, Pepper goes to the club to work again. Phoebe stays home with Wyatt and begins work on her column. So, at P3, this man named Troy Harper, he's manager for the band called Pretty Little Devils, which think is funny because Holly ends up being on a show called Pretty Little
Pretty
Liars,
little,
and now she's
yeah.
talking to somebody named Pretty Little Devils. But yeah, he greets Piper, and Troy asks Piper, he's like, "Hey, is there anyone else here with you?" Which is a really weird question to ask for somebody you
Yeah.
just met. And Piper responded, she's like, "Nope, it's just you and me. We can have our meeting and get book that band." And then he grins. He's like, He's like, "Well," and then everything went black for Piper, so she blacked out. So, menacing. Who is this person coming after Piper? Piper awakes now, and she's chained to a wall. Oops, we can't! Because we're chained to a wall! Oh, so that was remind me of A Night to Remember. Caitlin was in front of her and told her the demon Lexor came last night. So apparently that Troy guy was another glamour that she elf turned herself
Mhm.
to look like somebody, and then she took Piper and captured her. And she's like, "Yeah, I got you captured, and Lexor will come for you, because Lexor came and took the baby, or was going to take the babies again last night." And she's like, "Why didn't you wait for us?" She's like, "You took your sweet ass time. We couldn't wait for you any longer."
Right.
Uh, so, and Lexor did not take the babies because they offered him Piper instead. It's like, "Oh, if you leave our babies alone, we'll get you a charmed one. How about that?" And he's like, "Okay, fair enough." And so that's when they decided to capture Piper. Caitlin believes this is what they get for taking their time and tells Piper that she is trapped in Lexor's dungeon in the underworld and the chains are enchanted. So you can't blow these chains up. Sorry, sucks to be you. And you're going to be going with Lexor now.
So chapter 9, Piper is late, and Phoebe and Paige are worried. And she doesn't answer the phone, which is very unlike her. So um, Leo returns home from the elders and believes that the demon that was after the babies could be Lexor. So again, they are very late to everything. A demonic general. So Lexor is a demonic general whose aim is to lead an army of apocalyptic soldiers. But the Halliwell ancestors destroyed his men, so now he wants to form an army with supposedly the elf babies. But now he switched to human babies, and
Yeah.
now he again switch to like
So
a charmed one.
so he's gonna raise like 50 babies all by himself to turn into an army
I don't
later
know.
when they're older.
I don't know how
Like,
that's
this
gonna
is a
turn
really
out.
long scheme, I don't know. And maybe he has maybe he's gonna steal the babies and then use some kind of magic to make them age. I mean, maybe that would be, but still, that's long plan
Long
coming.
con. Yeah. So Phoebe gets a vision of Piper in chains and the sisters fighting a blurry figure with cat eyes. A blast comes from Wyatt while Caitlin quivers in the corner. So this one, I at this part, I had to reread several paragraphs to check what Phoebe was holding when she got the premonition, because she doesn't at this point she
Yeah,
doesn't um, just get like visions from out of nowhere. She has to like
yeah.
physically touch something.
Just
So
be a connection. Yeah.
it's a really, I think, several paragraphs that I noticed that she was carrying Wyatt, so that was probably the
Mm,
breaker, but it was
okay.
confusing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And then this blurry cat figure is Lexer, apparently. So this is the demon, but he has like they call him, I don't know how they describe him as as a muscular cat thing, but then also like a blurry cat thing. So I wasn't really
It's
sure.
not clear. Yeah, it's also I
Yeah,
don't remember anything about
yeah,
Lexer because he's just in like at the very last parts of the book.
right.
Okay, so anyway, Phoebe, Paige, and Leo and Wyatt orb to an unspecified part of the underworld. It's like a sewer, murky.
Yeah, because it's like I can get to the underworld, I can orb there, but I don't know where she is exactly. So we have to go to the underworld and then try to track her down. Is what their plan was.
Yeah. This is also not very canon because when they usually orb to the underworld in any unspecified, it's always just a cave with just rock walls. But now they're in like a watery, muddy
Mm-hmm.
place. Okay, so shortly after arriving, Wyatt instinctively orbs the group to Piper, and then Lexer arrives and approaches Piper.
That I thought was right because that's what Wyatt
Mhm.
did when in Sense and Sensibility too. He knew where his Leo was.
Yeah,
So I guess has his sensing ability better than Leo does even,
yeah.
and goes right to Piper. But still, kind of funny.
Okay, so Paige orbs Piper's chains away, and Lexer is aggravated that the power of three has not been separated because I don't
He's
know
like, "Yeah,
why
you
he's
told me there were
aggravated.
only one of them. Why are they
Yeah,
all here?"
and he hasn't done anything. He just chained Piper, so of course the other two would be looking for her.
Yeah.
So he throws an energy ball at Caitlyn, knocking her out, and I think several lines just says that she's not breathing already. So
Yeah.
I thought she was dead.
I knew she wasn't dead because she didn't explode to ashes.
I didn't think about that. Okay. Okay, so they attempt the power of three spell, and it fails, which I also don't know why. Is Lexer like a really high level demon? I don't think so, but it doesn't work.
No.
And then Phoebe remembers the vision and has Paige grab Wyatt. And then the sisters recite the power of three spell again, and then the wall is hurled towards Lexer and it caves on itself, pulverizing Lexer in the process. So that's not how vanquishing spell, especially the power of three spell, works. It's like an implosion, right? Or explosion. It doesn't implode on the on the demon.
Yeah. I mean, the power of three spell is more about like it's a defense. It's going to protect you for sure because it always creates like a barrier of some kind or a protection or something. But then it also has an attack effect as well. So it's
Yeah.
going to attack you somehow. So it's both offensive and defensive, and that's what's cool about the power of three spells. Um, but this
Also,
one
it's a power of three, and then they used
it
Wyatt as like
requires
a power
Wyatt. Yeah,
booster.
is it really power of three? Not so much.
Not really. Okay, so Paige takes Wyatt's little hand into hers and uses him again as a booster for the healing powers to heal Caitlyn. I don't know why they didn't just ask Leo to do it because he's just right there. He's right there,
He's
right?
right there. Paige is like, okay, Wyatt, give me your little hand. Here, let's hold it out over Caitlin and heal her. What is happening?
Some of the parts here are like they should have been fleshed out. Like Lexer's motive should have been fleshed out, and then we have these parts where they just make everything complicated. Simple things that they made complicated.
Yeah.
And then they take Caitlin home and then tell Rowan that the elves have been acting nuts. So they're going to bind their powers. But
That's
really, they
another
just make
thing.
it so that their powers are useless against humans. So
Right.
specifically for humans.
Yeah. Pretty much, you
And
can't
then
hurt us
they,
anymore. It's like it's
yeah,
it's more of a selfish spell. It's
it
like
is,
you came after us. You came after a baby. We didn't like what you did, so we're gonna bind your powers. We saved you, but we're gonna bind your powers from us.
right.
So
I really didn't like that because it didn't have like the consent of the elves,
no, there's no consent.
right?
They just say we're gonna do this for you, and they're like, wait, and like, nope, because she ended up freezing the whole crowd, and they perform the spell on them, and then they're left with that. They didn't no chance to defend themselves.
And it was Piper who was like saying this to the elves. And I think Piper
Yeah.
has like better sense on her head. I mean, if it was like the Piper in the show, they would like maybe create stronger protection spells on the village, or maybe they would relocate the entire thing to like a safer
Hmm.
location. But
They acted so holier than thou. We're the charmed ones. We're better than
right,
you, and we own you. And don't ever come after us again. It's like this is going to be a quicker way to war and separate you from the magical community. So when you're actually in danger and you could use some help, they're not going to want to help you because you just screwed them over, and you're making
right.
enemies out of people you don't need to make enemies out of. I know they did some shady stuff, but have a communication and a better way of chatting, and I don't know.
So anyway, they bail again, and then they just leave the elven people frustrated.
Yeah. Chapter 10. Paige is back at the daycare, and she's at the daycare a lot. And she finds all the children have returned. She thinks about visiting the surf shop. She's like, "Oh, well, it's all good here. Maybe I'll go see that other guy who gave me his card." All right, cool. Dory tells Paige that she hired. See, I thought Dory said
The
she hired a
Drew,
man. I thought it was going to be him, the
yeah.
Drew guy. That would make more sense. Like I hired this guy, and there he is. Oh, but no, it's just some new man that she hired that we don't ever see. And then Paige tells Natalie to embrace her imagination because it saved the day. You believed in fairies, and you saw Caitlin, and you saw that magic, and you had faith in it. You made us work, and Natalie's all grateful. She's like, "Oh, I'm important, yay!" Um, and then Elise is thrilled with Phoebe's new idea to create an internet community for moms to chat and answer each other's questions. So it's just like a mom message board that Phoebe had the idea for. It never existed before now.
Right.
They're gonna put it on the Bay Mirror website so all the moms can chat about their issues. And Phoebe doesn't have to fake her expertise anymore and actually do any work. So uh, so Piper has a hectic day at home with Wyatt, and Leo offers his help as Piper plans to balance her home life and work life. She's like, you know what? I can do both. I really can. It's going to be great. And that's the end. So, what are your thoughts about this book?
So I liked it, but I have like reservations because it did seem like it would be a good episode for the show, but some of the characters were really acting weird. Leo, very specifically, and then all three of them towards the elves were so out of their characters. But it had like the same beat as uh, the episodes from the show. So I still like this better than
Okay.
some of the other books.
Okay. So, yeah, I do think that like it was kind of a lighthearted episode. Like it could have worked. It was easy to understand.
Mhm.
I mean, there were some complications, but for the basic beats were easy. It wasn't a complex story. It's like babies, riot, cool elves. But yeah, I didn't really like this book at all. I was having a hard time
Really.
with it. Like, I mean, I do like some of the little pockets of it, but
Mhm.
um, I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I think so. At least for me, I think this was like the worst book I read so far. But I do like that it was short. That was really
Yeah, so
nice.
easy to so
Um,
you don't have to agonize for like 100 more chapters because usually the books have 250 and this one only had 152. So
yeah.
you suffer like for less time.
Hmm. Yeah, and like Paige was really nice to Natalie. I liked those moments with Natalie, but for the most part, they're all kind of like jerks in this book. Every character was like a jerk. Like, why are they such assholes in this? I don't know.
Also, the magic. Okay, so now I think I have to retract some of what I said earlier. Maybe I don't like this book also because some of them, half of the book didn't have any charmed magic, and then the only thing they did with their magic was half of them also were like shitty to the elves.
It's all throwaway, quick stuff that was just not fun.
Okay, so I don't like it, I think.
Yeah. I don't like this one. It was hard. Let's see. What other thoughts I have? I have chapter 3 mentions that Piper and Leo were in a store with screaming babies before they had Wyatt. I'm like, is this referencing Pied Piper? Because they had that screaming babies in the store. I'm like, maybe that's just a coincidence. But I'm like, huh?
Maybe because you read the books in succession. That's why you remember all the details from the previous one.
Yeah, I was like, wow, but probably just a coincidence. Paige is incorrectly called Piper on page 74 because they do that a lot in the book. Where they have the wrong name.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something. Okay, so the bounty hunter wanted magical babies. And I was like, I doubt all those babies at the daycare were magical creatures. But then they say that they think the demon was going to give them powers. I'm like, what? Yeah, okay. So you're going to steal non-magical babies, and then the demon's going to be like, here's your power, here's your power. It just seemed
he could
really
have just collected all the powers to himself and then just use it to take over the world, right?
Yeah. Because, it makes sense if you're trying to collect babies who are already magical, and that's why I thought she was coming after Wyatt specifically. But yeah, Leo pissed me off about not taking initiative to go after Wyatt because that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Here's something. Caitlin switched the babies to protect them, so she wanted to get her elf babies out of harm's way. But what was she going to do once the human babies were taken? Is she going to go back and take her elf babies back and then leave the other people with nothing? And be like, all of a sudden there's a bunch of missing children around San Francisco. We don't know where they went.
And then they would all be tracked down to like the daycare.
Yeah. It's like, what was the plan? Like, I don't understand what this was going to accomplish. If you switch the babies, you're still going to be stuck with no babies somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was weird. Okay, so now we're going to get into canonical. Put that in my canonical hat.
Canonical.
So, anything that reminded you of the show or any continuity errors that are blaring at you right now?
Don't remember the show that much. Like the small details.
Yeah.
But I like that they mentioned Jason and Glenn because that kind of put a time, like time point.
Like a timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And because Jason isn't mentioned, and then we know that this is after he moved to Hong Kong. So this is right after he asked Phoebe to go to Hong Kong, and she said no. So we know it's after that. And Glenn, Paige mentions it says that she nearly went traveling with Glenn before moving into the manor. So yeah, I was gonna go on a thing with my boyfriend, and they were. I don't know if they were officially like boyfriend. I thought they were just like hookup friends. They weren't ever like they dated maybe years before, but at this point that we meet Glenn, they weren't actually a thing. They're just like casual sex.
Oh, that was the episode where Glenn had like the really long arms, right?
There was and I remember where he was first introduced, so that's where he's in the bed, but then there's the one Trial by Magic where she cast a spell on him and he did the stretchies. Yeah. It's interesting. This would be after both of those things. I did like that Piper teases Phoebe about her scantily clad photo shoot from House Call.
Oh,
when she did her like 415. So they did mention that. And I did like that they brought in, they never say it, but they do mention that because Natalie is innocent, she's young, that this is why she can see the fairies and she can see these magical creatures because she has that innocence that they need to do it. So that's like that part. Paige is temping already at the end of season 5, and this is the same thing that happened in the last book where she was temping already, even though it's not season 6 yet. But I do believe that she could have started. If it's near the end of season 5, she could have started. We just weren't aware of it. So
I want to mention that they didn't. Oh, I think they mentioned Brood, but it's just one mention of Brew. I think in chapter 3, but it was forgettable. So, I also like that in this book, the info dumping was not as heavy as like in other books. It was sprinkled all throughout.
Going back to the magical baby thing. So, when I was reading this book, I was thinking like, could Caitlin be the Elf Nanny from this series? Because we don't know the Elf Nanny's name. She was just called Elf Nanny in the show. So I was like, is Caitlin the one? Because at this point, if it was near the end of season 5, she would have already showed up for her interview and left. She's like, this is too dangerous, and left. So she would have already known about the charmed ones about to have a baby. So she's like, I know where a magical baby is. So I thought maybe this is why, this is the connection. Like, she's like, I'm going to go after Wyatt. But then there's a point where they tell them that, you just messed with the charm, and she's like, oh, like where she's shocked. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess that's not her then.
It's like she was so lucky that on the day that she switched babies, one of them was the heir to the charmed legacy.
Or unlucky if you think about it. But but I thought that would have been a really cool time if this was this Elf Nanny character, because we love the Elf Nanny character. She's cool.
She is.
And this would have given her a little bit more story, a little bit more something to go off of, and so it's a missed opportunity there a little bit, but whatever. And they do mention the Elf Nanny too. They mentioned that Piper dealt with elves before when she called the best nanny elf she knew when she needed help with Wyatt, which no, that's not true, because
that wasn't what happened.
That's not what happened. She was having interviews. A bunch of people are coming in, and she leaves. She sees danger. She's like, "Oh, you told me that this is too much for me. I'm leaving." And then she comes back at "Oh my goddess," and she's like, "You're not the nanny. We rejected you." She's like, "No, I rejected you." so yeah. So first time she doesn't hire her. The second time she comes because she wants to help, and then the third time she comes is in season 6 when she's actually hired. When Piper actually reaches out to her was in Power of Three Blondes. In season 6, episode 4. That's the only time that Piper reached out for her, but it would have not happened yet. So that was something I noticed that was wrong. And the book describes the baby switching to look like fuzzy green blur on the babies, which I didn't get specific in, but it's like, but that's exactly how it looked in Oh My Goddess when the Elf Nanny conjured like a blanket on Wyatt. He had this blurry green stuff. So I'm like,
right.
So
I remember.
Yeah, right. So that kind of effect description is accurate. So I thought that was kind of
Elf
fun.
Magic, yeah.
Yeah. But one thing that is wrong is that Leo's orbs are described as white orbs.
It should be blue.
Should be blue orbs. So that's another thing that was wrong. But that's all I got. All those things. But canonical. Short and sweet. I would not like this as an episode, although I could see it feeling like an episode. I wouldn't want it.
In my notes, it was like an episode without like the overarching story arc. It was like a filler, maybe halftime episode, because it was so short and it didn't have anything else that was important to the whole series.
Right.
But I love the interactions between the sisters. I think they retain like the debating and all the brainstorming.
Yeah, and little moments like that, even though they're not magical, they always are the heart of the show, being themselves, being people, being sisters, so yeah, I get that. Rhyme time.
Should we try a spell?
Why not? Let's try a spell.
In the wind, I sing this rhyme. Bring death before me, before my time.
You've really got to lay off the rhyming, Prue.
Wonderful. Witty, but wordy.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
Here we go with our rhymes. We got a few spells in here. Did you want to do the first one?
To reveal the unseen, right?
Yes.
So this was used to reveal the baby, the elf baby, and also reveal the elf village.
Yes.
Forces of darkness, forces of light. Pull back the curtain to reveal what is right. That's it.
Yeah. Short and sweet. It's effective. It's not exciting, but it would do the trick. I think it would be something that they would say. The next one is the Power of 3 spell that requires Wyatt's magic to add to his power, making it not a Power of 3 spell, but it's a Power of 3 spell. And it goes, the Power of 3 will set us free. The Power of 3 will set us free. The Power of 3 will set us free. Ta-da! Okay, and now you can do the third one.
So this is the power binding spell, which I really do not like. But it's worded okay. So it goes, magic creatures of the woods rose against the cause of good. To help our kind in this dire hour, we witches bind the certain powers. and then they do the really bad thing.
Okay. I have problems with this. Like the rhymes are fine, but the language in here. Rose against the cause of good. Like they're saying that these are not good creatures, these are evil
Right.
people doing evil things. And elves are said to be good creatures. Okay. So that's a wrong thing there. And then and that's like to help our kind. Like it's so elitist, it's so othering them. It makes me angry. It makes me angry. So yeah, and then it's a shitty thing that they did to them. So I don't like the spell. It shouldn't exist, even though you might be good at rhyming. I don't like it.
Yeah, it doesn't. It shouldn't exist. Yeah.
Now we will do best baddie rankings. Best baddie. This is the second to last book in our section of books, so we're getting near the end of our rankings. So people should start thinking about who their favorites are, because I'm going to have the Instagram votes after the next book. We're going to have our Instagram votes on our favorite baddies, so be on the lookout for those. But the ones in this book, we had two. We had Lexor and we had Maya. So, well, Lexor is for sure hands down bottom of my list. He's even less than the Power of Darkness, which did like nothing in Truth and Consequences. But this guy
Right.
I hate even more.
Because he had a plan, but all the holes in the plan were just glaring at him. So I don't know how.
He was not interesting at all. He's just like a typical mad person that's just there to be. It's just there. He's nothing interesting about him.
Right.
Maya is another one in this book who is not the greatest, but I liked her better. I liked her better than Power of Darkness even. So she's number 13. Power of Darkness from the Truth of Consequences is number 14, and Lexer is number 15. Maya at least had like dynamic and she had style, and just the way her energy was like, yes, I'm like sexy
Her
Catwoman.
dialogue. Yeah.
Yes, and she did have dialogue and she did have a fun energy to her. So I did enjoy her for a little bit, but so they're not going to make my top 10 for sure. No one in this book, but
Yeah.
there you go. And now I asked us to prepare a 10 things segment. This is 10 things.
So what is our level of confidence in this plan?
10, 10, 10.
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being we whoop ass, 1 being he laughs at us while we're on fire and naked.
Maybe you should lie to me.
Here's 10 things. We are choosing our favorite magical creatures, magical beings from the series. So I have 5, you have 5.
Yeah. I think we
and I think
are
that'd be
gonna
fun.
have.
There might be some crossovers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your number 5?
Oh, do I have to rank them?
If you don't have a ranking, you can just pick one. Yeah.
Okay, so
If there's no particular order for you.
yeah, okay. So the first one I will mention is like the mermaids, because I really
Okay.
love, like in The Witch's Tale, I really love the idea that they turn permanently into a mermaid if they don't feel the love, or like feel like the
Yeah. If
coldness
they're
of like human hearts. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
also the call of the ocean was very interesting to me.
I have mermaids as number 2 on my list. So, but because I really enjoy the mermaids, mermaids in general in any lore are very exciting to me. I like water. I think they're beautiful. I love they're just a really wonderful mythological creature, and I love that they're included in Charmed. So yeah, we love mermaids. My number 5 are Imps, the Imps, which were from Rewitched. Did you remember them? It's in season 8, so you might not be
I think
as familiar.
are those like on the factory?
Those are on my list too, but that's not those. No,
Oh.
the Imps they're kind of they're super cute to me. They're in season 8 Rewitch, and they're like these little flying monkeys, like mini flying monkeys that were red.
I don't remember. I don't think I've watched the entire season 8. I've only watched once, I think.
Okay, it's like an imp master, this nerdy guy that control like these flying red things, and Billy was saving people from being attacked by them.
Oh,
Like little flying red
yeah.
things.
I remember the scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and from a distance, they look just like little flying red gnats. But when there's a part where like Billy grabbed one, and you got
Mhm.
a close up shot of it, and it's like a little tiny mini like furry monkey with bat wings, and it's super cute to me. And they just like it's like I'm gonna bite you, and
It's like
I
a
enjoy
tiny
them.
Pokemon. Pokemon.
Yes, yes, and those imps, even though they're dangerous and pesky as hell, I think they're super cute, and I enjoy them and enjoy the visual of them. All right, what's your next one?
Okay, so my next one would be unicorns
Oh
because
yes,
I I thought it was really brilliant to use the horn because they are made of pure magic when the day magic light, and also unicorns are very pretty. So,
they are
so
very pretty. It's like very magical, very and the actual lore of unicorns was that they're very kind of dangerous because they would like kill people with their horn
with the horn,
if
yeah.
yeah, I forget what the parameters were for that, but they would do that as a defense mechanism or people who wouldn't believe in something. So yeah, brutal. My number 4 is what we were talking about earlier, the Gremlins. Those are the ones in the factory.
Oh,
Um, Another kind of a cute, and Todd Tucker, he was a special effects guy. He played both of the Gremlins, and just kind of like walking around. I love the way they zip around, and because I'm a big fan of the 1985 movies, the Gremlins movies. Even though these weren't those, it still gave me like that energy and those little like out
they
there
weren't
chaotic
they weren't
vibes.
evil. I remember they
They
weren't
weren't
evil,
evil,
but
yeah,
they were mischievous, and
yeah,
then they were
mischievous,
annoying.
yes.
Yeah. So my next one is the fairies because they appear. Oh, the fairies, and I think what was the
The
bad
trolls.
the trolls because I think I watched that episode. I first watched that episode when it aired, and it was like midnight, so it was the tween time. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, I'm watching this, and then the fairies would and the trolls would come because it's the tween time. So I think I was in high school back then, and I was really into recreating like some of the spells and then the magic of the show. So I really believed that the fairies would show up in the tween time.
Oh yeah, that's great. I love that. Cool. Yeah, fairies, beautiful. Another beautiful creature. My number 3, because I was feeling it so much in this book, the Elf Nanny. I loved the Elf Nanny in the show. She was badass. She didn't take anyone's shit. She was her own person, and she had the right ideas. She knew her job. She had her skills, and she was unapologetic about it. So
Yes.
she's
She was
great.
also very sweet with the babies, and then with the
Yes.
adults, she was like, no.
She knew she was good at her job, and she had pride in her job. So yeah, Elf Nanny is the shit, and we wish we saw more of her.
Yeah, yeah. My next one would be the Sandman or Sandman in what was it?
Oh yeah,
San
San Francisco
Francisco.
Dreamin',
Yeah,
season 5, episode 14. Yeah.
yeah. So before the show, I didn't have any idea about like before I saw the episode, I didn't know about the Sandman legend or like the
Mm.
whole mythology. So it was very interesting to me that a magical creature was responsible for like good dreams or nightmares, depending on how they sprinkle you with it.
Yeah, definitely. That's dreams in general, and like sleep, and like the mystique, the mystery of dreams is so cool. And then the fact that you have more mythological lore attached to that is it's really fun. And it's really fun to
Yeah.
explore. So I feel that. My number 2 is a mermaid, so I'm not going to go into the detail about that again. So I like that one. So what's your last one?
My last one would be the White Lighters because they're very
Oh,
unique to the
yes.
show. And then I love that because it already having like women leads already like broke the stereotype in the TV industry at that time. So having like a man to be like the support character, and then he is powerful. He doesn't overstep like his place in like the power of the dynamic. So I really
Yeah.
love that. And then I love that the White Lighters have like office jobs. Technically, they have meetings in heaven with the elders.
Pretty
They
much.
have
Yeah.
schedules, and then they also have. I remember the Dark Lighter episode where she was. Uh, Leo was replaced with like a woman, and then Prue had to tell him
Yeah.
just have to go around like a wall because
Season
that
3, episode 11, Blinded by the White Lighter.
yes,
Yes.
I remember that very specifically because it showed that the White Lighters have like an office setting with it's an actual job for them. It's not like just a magical thing. It's a magical office thing.
Yeah. It is. It is. My number one, I'm going back to season 8. I know it's weird for me to talk about season 8 this much, but I enjoyed the Zodiacs, the Chinese Zodiacs.
Oh yes, I remember that
Their
episode too.
their collective, because I'm kind of into astrology, so I like that stuff, and the Chinese Zodiac especially is not given a lot of time because we always talk about the Western Zodiacs here,
Yeah.
whereas Chinese Zodiacs, the Eastern Zodiacs are really kind of fascinating too, and I love them and the whole cycle, and then the animals they represent, and the characteristics and the traits they represent, and the fact that they go through this process, that we actually get to see this process of them transferring to the next person, the next year, and then and seeing how what their processes and what their nature in the world, how they keep it going, is cool to me. And I love that, and I want, because I'm a rabbit in Chinese Zodiac, so I want the rabbit robe.
Right. Oh, I remember that, and I was a little frustrated because I'm a snake, and I don't think they showed any snake.
They didn't show the rabbit either.
They just mentioned.
So I know. I mean, I know it was there because they had all the guys, but the only one that had it was a big part was dog, and rooster got killed. So most of the Zodiacs they didn't show you. They were just kind of there as part of the collective. But just knowing that they were doing Zodiacs made me happy. So
what I wish they did on the show too was tarot cards, because right now I'm really into tarot. So we get that in the books, but Kiss of Darkness was bad. So
there is that one, but there is the one in Merry-Go-Round where Paige is playing with tarot.
Really?
In season 4.
I haven't. I will take a note of that. I will try to find.
Yes, season 4, episode 15, Merry-Go-Round.
Who was the villain in that episode?
I mean, it was kind of Cole, and then the Lazarus demon. We had Coolio come in, and the seer.
Okay, I remember the episode, but I don't remember the tarot scene. So I will have to find a way to watch that. Episode.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're really beautiful cards too. They were made especially for the show. So I actually have the Box of Shadows. Actually, the last thing they made was little pins. So they made little pins of those cards from the show. What's the tips for future White Letters?
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
What is the moral of this story?
I didn't think about that because I was just nitpicking the book. But I think, my lesson would be wary of kidnappers, because we get Wyatt kidnapped and then Piper also gets kidnapped at the end of the book. So just be wary of kidnappers. I don't know.
Be wary of kidnappers. I mean, that's always a good thing to bequeath upon the world. I would just say, be nice to people. Don't be an asshole, and don't be an elitist, because it just rubs people the wrong way. Don't think you're better than anybody else
without their consent.
Consent, yes. Consent is important. That's another thing. Consent is holier than thou. That's the one.
Yes.
All right, cool. I like that. So where can people find you and follow you and all that stuff?
I am Bench Bites on Instagram and Twitter. And so on Instagram, I post bookstagram. And then I have posted a lot of the Charmed books on there. So that's my main social media.
Oh, you know what? I just realized they did. I'm sorry, I'm going back to it. They did do tarot again in season 7 in Showgirls. Write that down too.
7. So which episode was that?
That was season 7, episode 15. So 4:15 and 7:15. Yeah. So you got Merry-Go-Round and then Showgirls.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. Anyway, yeah. So You can find me and this podcast, Words of the Witches, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Words of Witches on Twitter. And you can email us at wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com if you feel like it. You can find my other podcast, Hanging with the Hallowells, with Sean. So we'll see you in 2 weeks for The Warren Witches. That's our next compilation book. And your destiny still awaits.